Hey y'all, this is Straight from the Coffin with two goths in the coffin. I'm Amari.
And I'm Jude.
And we are back. Oh. That's my cat. We are back with another episode for y'all.
Yeah.
This is kind of our final Interview the Vampire episode for probably a minute.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an important one.
Yeah.
It's about the trial because we have talked about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Interview the Vampire, we can't stay here forever, but this is.
Why does she sound so mournful and sad?
She said we want more Interview the Vampire, bitch.
Yeah.
Y'all better not change the tune. This is the channel I paid for. But no one's paying us yet.
Especially not that cat.
Especially not my cat.
Yeah.
So her opinion doesn't matter in regards to this.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about Interview with the Vampire up until now.
Mm-hmm.
As we said, we've had 4 other episodes. We've had our fandom racism one, which very relevant right now, but it's kind of always relevant.
There's always some bullshit.
There's
we made it because there was
bullshit
bullshit happening, and now there's bullshit happening again, and there's gonna be bullshit happening in the future, unfortunately.
I mean,
it's an evergreen podcast.
Yeah. So check that out if you haven't. And then our other 3 are Louis episode, our Claudia episode, and our Armand episode. Those are all out.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that if you haven't listened to those, I would maybe listen to those first before coming back to this one.
Mm-hmm.
Just because those were kind of like laying out these characters within all the different intersections that they, exist within, and how that kind of has them moving and how they are moving with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And now it all has come together to this trial episode. And so we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
And the other players in this trial as well, because there are other folks involved.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that and really kind of break it down. We're going to start by talking about the different players, and by the players I don't mean like Louis and Claudia. I mean specifically.
No, I think if we think about it like a jury, it's like, here's the prosecution.
Yes.
Like.
Yes. Yeah. So.
And unfortunately, there is no defense. It is just the prosecution and the accused.
Yeah.
In this.
I mean. The judicial system everywhere is, not great. And it doesn't get better here in Interview with Vampire Land.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about that. And I guess we're gonna just jump into it.
Yeah. So the players,
who are they?
Yeah.
So we have Santiago and the Coven. We have the audience. We have Lestat. And we have Armand.
He agrees. But yeah, so like when we were kind of formatting this, at least in my mind, and I think I was able to convince Amari that it was of this too, that like Santiago, the Coven, and the audience to me all kind of occupy they have different, I would say, narrative roles, but also they kind of all come back to and keep referencing back to like a metatextuality, like where they're all sort of embodying both how the general public receives Black victims of abuse, especially when they're being put in the position of like being accused of something,
by white oppressors. Usually. And there's others in this one.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also, as just more than just like societally, there's a lot in this particular trial that's very specific to how the audience of the show, not just the audience of the trial, has received these characters of color as well.
And have continued to.
And to the point where like there's certain things that Santiago says on stage that are straight up posts I've seen on Twitter since season 1 aired.
Yes.
And the fact that, like, Santiago's first appearance in the show involved him breaking the fourth wall and looking at us, the viewers at home, and saying that we're complicit in whatever happens next.
Right.
So there's an indictment of the audience that's actually in the fictional theater, the fictional audience, but then there's also an indictment of the people at home watching it, and the way that I would say common ideas that have been proliferated around that have been overly, I would say, offering less grace to anything that the characters of color do, and even putting more on them than they're actually, guilty of, and absolving this white man who has done a lot of bad things, but people taking it away and being either minimizing his actions or attributing his actions to other characters, which we see in the trial they straight up do.
Exactly.
But we've also seen it happen before then.
Exactly.
And
so we have Santiago, the Coven, all these folks. We get into the trial, and they bring Lestat out, and they immediately paint him as the victim.
Yeah.
After all the things that we already have seen. And I feel like this is something that, again, this is something that we see. This is something that we also still see, from fans.
Or, like, completely absolve Lestat, saying, like, actually that didn't happen, or this didn't happen. And I was thinking about, what was I thinking about earlier today? Because I literally was thinking about this while I was driving to work. I think about this show a lot in the car, I think, because I'm not...
You didn't tell me.
I didn't tell anyone, because I was just thinking my thoughts. But when they're doing this recounting of, in the trial, where Lestat's telling this really, like, heavily distorted version of season 1, basically, which also to me feels like that thing of, like, when the fans are like, just wait till Lestat tells his version of events.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that thing is. Yeah. It's a highly distorted version that completely contradicts everything Louis says and paints him as a liar.
And we'll get more into
that. But I noticed that Lestat completely erases Paul from Louis' narrative. He says he got into a street brawl. He doesn't say it was with his brother. He says he, kissed him in the church, but he doesn't say he was there because his brother had killed himself and Louis was grieving.
Any bits to, like, remove any kind of, like, humanity from Louis at all, especially while trying to paint him as the monster and predator in that situation.
Yeah, because it's incongruous with the image that they've created. But I was literally thinking about earlier today that I was like, that whole thing completely erases Paul from the narrative. When Paul is, like, central to how they even ended up together. Louis wouldn't have ended up in that church if Paul hadn't died.
Yeah.
Like, but he had to make it about himself, that he was being pursued, that he's kind of at the center of all of it. And it had nothing to... Louis has no interiority outside of him. It all revolves around how badly he wants him.
Yeah. That's such a good point. I don't think I ever even, like, thought about that fact that they completely removed Paul from that narrative and what that, like, really means, to be honest. Like, really examining it that closely. That just randomly popped into your head today. Or have you been thinking about that for a while?
It literally popped into my head today. No, I think it wasn't in my car. I was at work. It was so dead at work today. So I did what I normally do, which is I just think my thoughts. And so often my thoughts... Well, I was also thinking about the trial. We're doing this today.
Right.
And it came up.
Right.
And I was just thinking about it. And I was like, Lestat didn't mention Paul.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So, like, as we were kind of saying, like, it removes any humanity or, like, any potential for the audience to feel compassion for Louis and Claudia. Like, a couple places they do that. I would say that specifically I was thinking about as a way to make Louis seem less like a person and more like a archetype, or more like a caricature.
Right.
Really put all of the potential empathy for the audience with Lestat, who, because of the way they've set it up, they're already primed
Right.
to, because they introduced him as a victim, so the audience are very primed to empathize with him, and them just kind of reinforcing that over and over. And then when they do mention some of the more like messed up or like violent things that Lestat
Claudia tries
does,
to like be like, hello.
well, what I was gonna say is like whenever they try and introduce the more aggressive stuff that Lestat's done, that's excused with them being monsters.
Yes,
but when it comes
exactly.
to talking about, when Claudia does come up and she's like, well, he was trying to kill us, that's why we did it, she's hushed and told to shut up and sit back down.
Exactly.
But like, and she also points out, she's like, it's not a murder because he's literally here.
alive.
If he's here able to stand trial, then we didn't kill him. But we tried to because he was going to kill us first.
Exactly.
But like, she's booed and told, and they literally forcibly make her stop talking. They
Very
forcibly
violently.
silence her.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think with
that's also
yeah.
another thing that the fandom does, though.
Yeah,
too.
like
that's
whenever
another
we try
way
and
the mirror between Santiago and the fandom. Anytime that like people try to have like these discussions about the fact, actually a lot of people are like, this is a gothic horror, it's a gothic horror, it's a gothic horror.
Yes.
But it seems to only apply when it's about like certain things. And then also when you try to talk about the gothic horror of like the abuse that's happening, people are like, well, I don't actually think that really happened like that. And it's like, what do you mean? So what is
gothic about it other than the aesthetics, I suppose? But yeah, like it's exactly that, where the audience at home definitely does participate in it. And it does the same thing where it's like Lestat is able to be justified in his actions because they're like, they either say well, they're vampires, so it's different, or they do, it's a gothic horror, guys, so it's fine. But then like when we do get some things where like, I would say we see Louis reacts in what I would say realistic, but like not the perfect decision every time. Suddenly now they want to shift all the abuse onto Louis. Well, Louis made him do that. Louis is actually responsible for all of this. And
what are we even talking about now?
I remember seeing a post, I think yesterday, that I did mention to you, where this person very succinctly summed up like the motivations, where they're just like, Lestat and Armand are always lashing out for harm that they've experienced in the past, whereas Louis is fighting right now for to survive,
right?
Like to save him and Claudia. He's fighting back right now.
Right.
Sorry.
In the moment.
And like when we do see like the other side that they show of the episode 5 like revisit here, where it's like Louis showed him as being like more, I would say, active in the fight, but
he was trying to protect,
but also like when it comes to these like prolonged abuse, you're always like kind of tensed and ready to go. And so he has like this big moment where it's like all this is coming up and he's been tensed for a while, and it just like goes off. So like this isn't just like this particular moment. This is years and years and years of like having this tension that finally snaps for Louis as someone who's been experiencing, up until that point, I would say mostly like emotional abuse. And then finally like it pops off and it all comes out, because like the body and the psyche doesn't draw a difference between emotional harm and physical harm. They all kind of manifest the same. That's why you have the anxiety you would have if you were being chased by like a lion about having to make a phone call. Your brain doesn't draw the distinction between those things.
I know that very well.
You saw it happen to me today. I just was so tired, emotionally drained. But
I'm talking about myself, if you're being honest.
I was like, also, but yeah, so it's like he's been like in that position, but it's blown off because also like emotional abuse in general is typically blown off and not seen as being as serious as physical abuse, but also we see sometimes in this fandom physical abuse is not
it's still not enough for
it's still not
folks.
enough because they're vampires, so it's not like he killed him. It's not like it was gonna kill him.
Oh,
but
isn't that what?
That's
crazy.
Yeah.
Someone else said that. What was his name?
Yeah, Santiago.
Oh, yeah. That bitch is dead.
Oh yeah, he's very dead. But yeah, and then also like in general, like the motivations of the coven to do this like has to do with like,
and very specifically getting into, are we going to get into Santiago, or are you going to talk about the coven itself?
I think the coven kind of, to me, feels like an extension of Santiago himself because he steers them so much.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. That's why I was like, are we getting into... Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because, like, I also read something today that I was like, basically is this, but, like, the trial was kind of Santiago's way of trying to put all of the characters of color in their place.
Yeah.
Like...
Yes.
We see he has like this loaded power struggle with Armand that I think you cannot erase both race and nationality from it, because
this resentment to having to like be under a brown man,
specifically Indian, and we can't forget that Santiago is a British man.
Yes. And
the resentment he would feel at having to take orders from a like brown-skinned Indian man who's far more powerful than him and has just been like accepted as a leader for centuries before he was like ever on this earth.
Right.
Like by the time, because he was like the newest, so he had showed up in like the 20s. Armand had already been Coven Master for like almost 400 years at that point.
Right.
So like there was no way he was going to just like walk in and be like, I'm the leader now. But he felt such resentment at having to take orders from this guy and having to think of himself as being like subservient to this man. And I think it's why we see after the trial, Armand is a servant.
Right. They immediately regulate him to
like doing the like the shitty tasks. Because from Santiago's point of view, it's like this guy, I'm putting him back where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, but and that's what all of this feels like. It's all about putting them in their place. Because then you also have Louis, who comes in and he's like, I don't need to join the coven.
Yeah, he doesn't
really
care
about what y'all are doing. Honestly, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to do this, and I'm not really into it. And
he, he's walking around. He's like exploring himself. He's going to his little cafes, and here comes Santiago, who's like, Santiago treats Louis with a lot of resentment in the same way that white folks during a certain time would treat what they quote unquote labeled black folks as like an uppity Negro or whatnot. That was a term to kind of refer to black folks who felt like they deemed as like insolent, or who were try to be above the place that white people felt like they should be at. Louis comes in, he's like, I want to just do what I want. I don't need to like answer to none of y'all. I am here to just be. And Santiago's like, well, if I got to, you got to.
Yeah.
Who do you think you are? Who does this black man think he is? And we can tell that's racially like influenced because he starts mocking him in his own accent.
Yeah.
Which is so weird already. And so there's that building resentment for Louis as well. And then we also have like, there's also this sexual undertone, both for like Armand, and we know Louis because Ben Daniels. Ben Daniels
is such a fun guy. He was like, well, look at these guys.
Yeah, look at these guys. So we know there's also like this like sexual undertone to it as well, and so there's also this sexual violence to it, to Santiago's like rebuilding resentment. I mean, we also see that in a way that he like mocks like Louis and Armand,
Yeah.
you know, and what they get up to, which is none of his business. I mean, yeah, they're doing it right, you know, with the open window, but you know what? Mind your business.
Yeah, mind your business. But yeah, no, yeah, for sure, because like I think people often confuse being sexually attracted to people of color as not being racist,
Which is not the
which
case.
is not true, because sex can be a means of subjugation, and I think Santiago feeling like he deserves sexual access to whether it's Armand or Louis is racist, and is racially motivated.
And then what he does with Claudia's ashes,
yeah, sexually violent as well. Like there's just this what's the word? It's like it's not quite expectation, or like I guess what I'm trying to say is like this expectation that he has the right to have sex with, or to sexually objectify, or to sexually harass, to be more accurately, these people of color, simply because he's a white man and they're people of color and he wants them at that moment.
And that's extremely like, it's such like a historical bit of like of a power dynamic that white supremacy like really allows for.
Yes.
I mean, we see that even in like, you know, back when, you know, I mean, I was gonna say during slavery, but there's other types of slavery still going on right now. But you know, the early Americas during that time period and what that looked like, and like there was a lot of sexual violence going on because white folks felt like they had like this, they were deserving of like access to black bodies. And I feel like it's very, I mean, we also see that Santiago also he's just, I mean, he's sexually violent in general. Like in during the first play.
Oh yeah.
Like,
well, I would say all of the plays, the last little bit where he has them either be a bride or a groom, and he kills them, and he kind of forces consent, and then kills them, and the thing is, like, I think there's been a conversation I've seen going back and forth about whether or not we should consider like something like sexual assault to have anything to do with desire, and people saying yes and other people saying no. Like, but what it is about, like, when it comes to these situations,
it's about power.
It's about power, and I think in a lot of ways it's about subjugation, and it's in a lot of times degradation or humiliation.
Yes, 100%.
It's not so much that, I mean, like, sure, maybe he wants to have sex with Armand or Louis, but it's more he wants to degrade them.
And it's still rooted in this power dynamic.
Yeah.
It's still rooted in, like, white supremacy.
He doesn't care about giving them pleasure. He cares about using them for his own pleasure.
Right.
They become an object for him to get off, basically.
Right.
So, like, it's, you know, it has very little to do with actual sexual attraction.
Right.
And I think we see it with all of the fact that this sexual violence we see on stage over and over again that he does every night as part of their ritual for the blood Sabbath that they do. But yeah, so
we have that.
It's definitely all of that aspect. And then, like we said, the coven is just kind of, they're a extraneous arm of Santiago's in this, and I think because there are like people of color in the coven, and I think that it ties kind of around to Armand and his role also as perpetrator in this trial,
and showing that people of color also can be part
Mm-hmm.
of and can contribute to these systems of
Yes.
oppression and white supremacy if they decide to align themselves with
Yeah.
it.
And sometimes if they feel like they'll get some sort of reward
Mm-hmm.
from it, if they'll somehow be like set up above, like, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to say, like, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this is the status, but I get to be special, and I'm
Right.
gonna have that special status by betraying other people of color.
Right.
um
But as we'll get into it, like
it
Armand,
Yeah,
that's not
it really
ever the
doesn't mean
case.
anything. Yeah, like it's always a lie, because
Yeah.
you're never gonna like get up to where the white people are.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're never going to let you into their club. They're going to
Right.
let you like entertain them outside of it,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not ever going to like earn respect by doing that.
And as soon as you are you as soon as you go out of place, you walk out of place, as soon as you
Mm-hmm.
act up in any way that they don't want,
They're gonna get you.
You're cut off.
Yeah.
So like, for what?
Yeah, for what?
But we'll get into Armand in just a minute.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
now we're gonna talk also about Lestat.
Oh yeah.
Lestat. And
The way you said it, like the Brady Bunch, Marsha. Anyway.
And we really want to talk about this because I feel like a lot of people feel that he has no real participation in that, like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what do you mean? So many people excuse his
Him.
participation in this.
Yeah, like I think this is really crucial that people, yes, this is an adaptation of a book series, and yes, Lestat has his motivation in the book, or what he says happened in the book, but this is not going beat for beat with the books. And so yeah, Lestat in the books is there at the trial because he's so weak and he's being forced to do this. But also we have to remember that Lestat in the book, Interview with the Vampire, and Lestat in the show, Interview with the Vampire, are different levels of injured post Louis and Claudia murder attempt on them. In the book, he drank poison blood. He got his throat slit. He was thrown into a swamp and kind of chewed on by an alligator. He came out and then he got set on fire. And also, he wasn't very old. He, like, Lestat in the show is 100 and something when he shows up in New Orleans. Lestat in the book, when he showed up, was 30. Like, there's a difference, and that's why they gave him so many more abilities on the show. They've talked about it. They're like, well, how would that compound with him being like 100 and some change, like when he shows up in our version as opposed to the original version. So Lestat is fully healed when he shows up. He's not, you know, starving on the verge of death, crawling and being like, may I please have some blood, Armand? And Armand being like, no, get on stage and do my thing. He's like fully coherent. He's fully cogent, and he showed up on purpose. Like, he had to get there for like years. At this point, it's been like what, like 6 years since he murdered. Not well.
I've done the math before, but I don't remember right.
Because it's about 4 years in Eastern Europe before they got to Paris, and then it was another like 2-ish years that they were there.
Yeah.
So about 6-ish years.
Yeah.
Like 6.5, maybe 7-ish. Like, he's fine. And then he got on a boat, or wherever he got there, and got his way over to Paris, and then stayed there and went to rehearsal.
And
that's the thing that's always gonna get me, that he went to rehearsal.
You know, I'm just gonna say something right now, because it really do piss me off. Because, like, okay, I just want everyone to know I am on both of these men's ass all the time.
Yeah.
And it does make me mad that both of them are at these rehearsals. And if either one of them really gave a shit about Louis and Claudia, they could have teamed up. If it was just about them versus the cut.
They don't even have to team up. If Lestat,
one of them, I mean,
only one of them could have done it,
but none of them. That's what I'm trying to be clear. both of them are very,
Yeah.
very complicit in this.
Yeah, because if Louis, a much weaker vampire, was able to
I know,
like come
no
up with an
offense to you,
idea.
Louis,
Yeah, no, but he's not nearly as powerful.
You're a baby.
He is,
in
yeah,
comparison.
like a much less powerful vampire, because like Lestat's bragging about having the blood of Akasha, and Armand has.
That's what you're about to say. Like,
that,
he's like, you can't kill me tonight. So like,
well, yeah.
you're
So
not
if
gonna be
that's
able
the
to kill
case,
me.
then why didn't he just kill the Coven?
Yeah.
Once he was like, oh, they're
I
gonna
can't
kill
be
my
killed.
fledglings. He chose to do that.
He chose.
And even if like, I was like, even if they were, you know, somehow manipulating him, they've already, I don't know, it just doesn't fly. It doesn't work for me. And I think we have to accept the fact that he was there because he was angry and he wanted revenge. Sam Reed did say that at some point. He said that he's talked about Lestat's motivations for going to the trial in a couple of different interviews, because he said that that was always the thing that he was trying to like pin down, because it is a kind of strange like thing for him to do, like, or like, you know, it's kind of tricky. And I thought about that the whole time when I was watching the episode. I'm like, why is he like, why is he here? Like, and so he's like, the two motivations he's talked about is like, he was angry. He's had, you know, this many years where he's just sitting in New Orleans angry. And like, then the other thing he mentioned in a more recent interview is that like, he referred to it as like a monster choice. He was like, vampires, like, I'm gonna say the people he lumped Lestat in with, but he's like, the vampires like Marius and Akasha and Lestat have become kind of removed from humanity, so that they're operating by monster logic. And so it's the thing of like, if my fledglings are going to die, like if my children are going to be killed, I'm going to be there because that's the right thing to do, to be there to see them off. So like, Lestat was always planning to let them die, and it's not until he looks at Louis in the trial that he's like, I don't know that I can let him die here.
Right.
But even though he has that realization, he could stop the play at any time. If he jumped off and was like, actually, I'm not participating, and went backstage, what can they do to bring him back that wouldn't make the jury seem like monsters when they're supposed to be garnering sympathy? If they pull him back there by their hair, like his hair, like, they're gonna garner sympathy for the accused, quote unquote. So like, he really has all the power in that scene, and he's shown that he has the ability to go off script, but he didn't go off script enough to stop the play.
You know, homophobia
is a no. No, but racism is fine.
He said, you know, I'm fine with anti-blackness.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of has to be. He's done it so many times.
His first line to Louis
being like, how'd you even get through the door? And then be like, oh no, it was a compliment. I remember when I was watching the show, and like when I first heard that line, I was like, this guy's crazy.
That was the first,
because of the nonchalant way he says it too.
About I was like, because that's crazy. That was wild.
Yeah, I think people need to realize that like, Lestat's been consistently anti-black, and I think the thing is like, something else I think a lot of white people in general need to understand is that racism can look a lot of different ways. Yes, it can look like putting on a white hood and going through and setting houses on fire. However, it can also look like small things and just
that aren't really small.
It can look like making your partner pretend to be a servant so you can see an opera together, even though you know it makes him uncomfortable and he's indignant about having to do that. And it can also look like, you know, grabbing your black daughter off of a train and threatening her with violence, basically equating her to a dog and telling her to get back home and make her parent happy. That's not a microaggression, by the way. That's just aggression. That's a macro aggression.
That's some crazy shit.
That was his slave catcher cosplay.
Yeah.
But like with so many of his like little racist moments, he did it with a little bit of flair, and people think it's a joke.
Yeah.
And they're able to laugh it off and agree with it and be like, haha, what a funny moment. And I'm
Which is a very upsetting moment for some of us.
Yeah.
But,
and like, I think Lestat is racist the way a lot of white liberal people are racist, where he
Mhm.
would never say that he's racist because I don't think he sees himself that
Yeah,
way.
I don't think he does.
But
I
he,
mean, that's why, when he first, starts chatting me up, he's like trying to be like, I see what you have to experience.
yeah.
And he acts like
Well,
he really
well,
gets it, but
yeah.
like
When he's just like doing
racism 101.
doing the just heard about racism. Damn, that's crazy.
Anyways, what's your number,
Yeah.
girl?
Yeah. Or like with their first interaction, him basically just fetishizing Louis and Lily and being like, this
Yeah.
is a compliment for
Yeah.
me to say this to you. And I think it's because like he's the very like I don't see race
Right.
type of like white liberal.
Mm-hmm.
And also he's a type of like, well, we don't have racism in Europe.
Yeah,
Type,
which is not
which
true.
is they invented it. So it's like but a lot of so many French people and European people see racism as an America issue.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it a lot in how Lestat talks, like in that first church scene, he refers to it as like, oh, that's a side effect of this primitive country that you're in.
Right.
And not a societal issue that, I've ever contributed
Right.
to.
And yet all the times that Louis tries to have discussions about these things that are happening to him,
Get brushed off.
so very he just brushes it off.
Yeah.
He acts like Louis is like overdoing it, being dramatic. Even on the night when like everything kind of goes down,
there's a literal race riot.
Literal
and
race
he's like,
riot.
you're overreacting.
And he's like, what if this is our anniversary, girl? And you're like, and then everyone had the nerve to be upset at Louis for like telling him he's gonna be alone. Man, if it was, I think I've said this before. That's because that scene pissed me off so much. Because I'd been like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you even talking about? Do you not see what's going outside?
Mm-hmm.
But, apparently that's not enough racism for people.
But it's because, like, I think for a lot of white people, he doesn't straight up look into the lens and be like, I
hate
think
black people.
Yeah, or like, I think that I'm better than black people because I'm white.
Yeah.
But it's like a lot of his actions show that, and I think when we see like Claudia kind of like poking at it in like episode 6, like he just kind of doesn't respond and like steps back because like that's a very white liberal thing of like him not addressing what's happening, just being like, oh well, you're clearly you're upset.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, step away now.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it doesn't make you less racist because you decide to be the quote unquote bigger person and leave the room.
Right.
Like, but yeah, so like, I think a lot of people overlook that, and I think a lot of people overlook, I was gonna talk about something a little bit more recent of like the ways in which Lestat like underplays Louis' relationships with people of color, whether it's romantic or platonic.
Oh, yeah.
Where the relationship with his family is not as important as his relationship with Lestat, or his relationship with Claudia is not as important as his relationship with Lestat, or his, now if we go like romantic, the thing with Jonah, the fact that he flips out, him being with Armand.
But then brings White. That was a crazy thing. But he brings okay. I feel like we're getting a little off topic just a little bit, but I do want to talk about this because it's relevant to all of this still. Because, like, when Lestat has a big problem with Louis being involved with, like, people of color. And I feel like maybe there's some
racism.
Well, there's that. But maybe some, like, insecurity that's rooted in racism when it comes to that. Because like Louis doesn't like go back to a white man or anything like that after he like leaves Lestat. He doesn't the man that he goes out with while Lestat goes to his white woman is a black man. And Lestat brings back all the white military officers instead because he's like, oh, you want a soldier? Well, they can only be white.
And then we see him do something similar in the teaser scene that they released, where it's like he's talking shit about Louis' relationship with Armand and then suggests Santiago instead. a white man who's basically Bargain Bin Lestat.
Right.
That they have they have a lot in common, and I think that's why they don't like each other. Yeah. Honestly, they both have their huge divas and they clash.
Right.
But they're very similar, and I think Lestat threw that out there as both a bigger dig because Santiago was, I think, more egregiously involved in Claudia's death, but also there's this recurring theme with, and then also just like a fun little thing of like when Louis touches his lawyer's arm, a dark-skinned black man played by Moses Sumney,
and
so
when
I'm assuming he's gay.
Are fucking on screen, I'm gonna be like, yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm getting off topic.
Yeah, but like when he touches like his lawyer's arm, Lestat looks pissed because there is this insecurity, and I think it's because, and I also think we see the insecurity with like Louis' relationship with Claudia, where like Lestat, I think, understands that Louis has different experiences with him, and I think he's always paranoid that Louis is gonna leave him for a person of color because he's like they have this, and like we see it very very explicitly like in the relationship with Louis and Claudia, where they could literally talk to each other without speaking in a way that Louis can't with Lestat. Right. But I think Lestat is also paranoid that that's just going to happen with every person of color that Louis is with, that he's like, you're going to leave me for them because you can understand you have like more shared experience, and I'm going to be thrown to the wayside.
But
and it's like, but if you spoke to him,
you are so resistful to trying to understand him. Yeah. And his needs. Like, that's, I will say, this is the one thing I really do love about this show, especially the first season. It really shows like what it looks like being a black person or a person of color or whatever, but specifically a black person is in this situation, and what that looks like dating interracially. Because it's a whole mess, especially when you're already like isolated like Louis is, and you grow more isolated because you're like losing your community, you're coming out, whatever, and you have like this white partner. You really lose like a whole part of like, it starts to feel like you lose a whole part of your like identity, because like for black folk, like our community is everything. And Lestat is so resistful to trying to understand that. Yeah. And I'm like, if you just even at least tried, maybe you would have gone a little bit better.
But I also think like Lestat doesn't want to acknowledge it because he wants to pretend like the difference isn't there. Yeah. So he's like, well, if I acknowledge race, then I'm acknowledging that difference, and so I'm just going to pretend like it's not there and it doesn't exist, and then it won't ever affect our relationship. And it actually affects it more because he's discounting Louis' experiences. Right. Instead of like being like, okay, this is your experience, this is how you navigate through the world, and this is, so I should take that into account and change the way that I see things and unlearn stuff that I've internalized from, this life that I've lived. But he doesn't, because if he it's like one of those things, like, you ever see like those people who are like, well, the only reason there's still racism is because we keep talking about it. I think he's that type of person, where it's like, if I don't talk about it, then if I don't talk about racism, then I'm not racist. You're racist if you talk about racism. Or it's like, if you observe the differences, then you're contributing type racist. But all that does is allow it to compound
You're
and compound and compound
the systematic like, realities
and your role in it.
Exactly.
So you get to be ignorant, right? And I think it's like, if he were to learn, he wouldn't be able to claim ignorance anymore, right. And so he doesn't want to, because that's a whole can of fish he doesn't want to open. Yeah. And it's more trouble than it's worth, so he's not going to get into it. And then he wonders why his relationship is like being what's that like meme where it's just like, I spent $7,000 on candles, someone please balance my budget, my family's dying. Like, it's that. So like, yeah, and I think, to segue when we're talking about into Armand, this player,
I have to say, we rewatched this to talk about this in the way
we both kept, whenever they would like cut back to Armand's face, whether it was in Dubai or in the trial, we're just like, you fucking,
I'm just like, grab.
Yeah. Because like he does like this big like, oh, like face like, the whole time, where like he's just like playing up hurt, playing up innocence, playing up like him being wronged in this thing.
Piss me off.
Where it's like you, as with a lot of things with Armand, you're trapped here because you've chosen not to leave.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, oh no.
This is really a you problem.
I can't believe this happened.
Because, like, yeah, sure, like, is it hard to leave this institution that you've been a part of for all, like, basically your entire vampiric existence that's, like, exponentially longer than your human existence? Sure. But that doesn't mean that you're justified in doing it. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not necessary.
Like, it's hard? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know. I left my cult, so I'm not the same thing. But
yeah, no,
yeah,
yeah. But yeah, so like, I really find Armand's way of navigating this whole situation very interesting because he very much does play up the I had no choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we see someone made a gift set, and I really realized the amount of times that Armand kind of hints from very early on that he knows that the Coven is going to turn at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives like really weak, like, you should probably think to get out of here. And he kind of gives like weak little, like, you should do this maybe, but doesn't really push it, because if he were, the best course is for Louis to leave, and if Louis leaves, then he's left, you know?
Yeah.
And so Armand's like, oh, maybe you should do that, but doesn't really like put a lot of oomph behind it because he doesn't actually want him to go.
He doesn't want him to go, but then he's not gonna
but he's not gonna go, but yeah, because he could have go with him, but Armand can't. He's not emotionally or psychologically in the place. Like, he doesn't really push because, like, he doesn't want to go. He wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to stay where he is and also keep Louis, even though he knows at a certain point that's not realistic, but he doesn't really put a whole lot into warning Louis and making sure he gets out of there in time. Because, like, from the murder mansion scene, when he's just like already hinting that some of the Coven members know that he's lied and they're pissed about it. When he's like, you've got to don't lie, because if they find out, they're going to be very angry with you and it's going to be a lot worse for you. But yeah, there's like these hints that like Armand's known for a long time that this is probably going to happen. And he just doesn't do a lot about it.
Nope.
I think he's hoping either something will change, or maybe he's just accepted already that he doesn't get to have anything. And like, it's such a it's simultaneously self-destructive in the sense that it ruined a relationship that he really cared about. And it never really goes back to the way that it was, and it can't because of his actions. But it's also destructive because it hurt other people very badly, and he just kind of let them be collateral in this. Which is shitty.
Fucked up.
Yeah. And he does utilize, like we were talking about in like the Armand episode, that like
we do talk pretty extensively. Like, we're probably not gonna get into like as much because we just did with Lestat, because we talked extensively about how Armand utilizes anti-blackness and how he has this he continues these cycles of that he's been part of, these like white structures that he's had to exist in, and now has decided, now that he's in power, has like continued to become like the perpetrator of them instead. And we talk very extensively about that in those, so we're still gonna talk about it here, but like, just so you know, like we
about
2 hours
about 2 hours about it, and like a lot of that we had to be like, we're gonna talk about more of this in the trial, because so much of Armand's story is about this trial. Like, it culminates in this trial. Because that's a big part of his storyline in the book Interview with the Vampire, especially the second part. And so but yeah, he does utilize anti-blackness to to try and save his own skin, but I think the way he utilizes it is really interesting, which is just through being overly, he lets things happen. He wants to have I don't say plausible deniability, but it's uh I'm always going to die on the hill that he didn't plan the trial. He participated in it, though, when it was brought up to him. I don't think he knew about it until he went back after the Madeline thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe he met with the Coven, and they did give him that script and say, this is the deal. And he's like, damn, I guess we have to kill Louis.
He's like, damn, I guess I gotta direct this shit.
Yeah, because that's what he does, and when it's what he's always done, and so he just does it. And that's participation.
Right.
That's participation.
Right.
But it's a participation where he gets to pretend like his hand was forced when he could have not done it. But Armand, I was gonna say something. It's like, I want to observe, Armand has been a victim, but Armand plays the victim in situations where he is not the victim.
Exactly.
Because he's internalized his victimhood so deeply and entwined it with his sense of identity that in any situation he's in, he sees himself as the victim, even
like,
if he's the abuser.
I just couldn't do anything about
yeah,
it.
I think there is a part of him that does believe he couldn't have prevented it, that all these dominoes falling as they fell was always going to happen and was fated, and he couldn't have stopped it from happening. But also, like, he could not prevent it. He also didn't want to.
Right. Especially when it came to, like, Claudia.
Oh, he didn't give a shit about Claudia, yeah.
Because, like, when we were talking specifically about Claudia, like, he
Assad also, because they're like, why didn't he, someone brought up to him, was like, Armand could have saved Claudia, and Assad was like, I'm gonna be real, Armand doesn't give a shit about Claudia.
I mean, like,
yeah.
Like, if he was gonna save anybody, it would have been Louis, which is why he played it up. He was like, oh, yeah, when Louis was like, did you save me? He's like, oh, yeah. It was me.
Yeah.
But with Claudia, no, he didn't give a shit about her. He was very fine with, like, using anti-black violence towards her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had no qualm. He had no issues.
No, yeah, and like I had kind of, I forget where I said it, but I've said it before that, like, with this trial, Armand had already kind of primed the audience for it by having them cheer on her death for 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
A year and a half, however long it was. Because it was every night for 500 nights. So that's about a year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. Of getting them to cheer for her death over and over again. So they were so used to cheering on her death by that point. In this, like, minstrelly type show where she's playing a dumb fucking character.
Right.
And so it's like, they reference that play in this trial a couple of times. And she brings it all back when she has the song that she's like, this has been the same shit the whole time.
Nothing changed.
Yeah.
Nothing new.
No.
Like, same old shit.
Yeah. So it's like, and there's like such a, because I'm like, his motivations are so selfish.
Right.
Where it's like he feels like he's not going to have the relationship that he wants, and so he decides that it's just better if everyone dies. We've seen the whole time that, like, him and Louis aren't necessarily on, like, the same page about things, but because of the way that Armand is, they're not going to have a conversation about it. He's just immediately going to assume that he's going to be thrown out tomorrow.
Right.
And so he kind of, like, in this way, I feel like he feels like he's beating Louis to the punch.
Right.
It's like, you don't, like, almost like, you can't fire me, I quit. Energy.
I mean, but that's not even equal. It's not like Louis was gonna go out and, like, kill you. Like,
no.
He's like, that's not important.
But yeah, there's just a lot of, like, fucked up shit that's like, it's Armand's issues that he makes Louis' problem.
Right.
That I'm like, it's not that I'm towing the line between, like, he is a victim and he is also a victim of racism in this situation, but he is also the perpetrator of racial violence on other people in this same situation. So there's tiers to this. There's a nuance to this I think a lot of people don't want to observe, because I've also seen people say that Armand didn't experience racism. Which is crazy, because they said he didn't, and one of the things they point to is that he is racist to Louis in this by having this trial, and once again holding rehearsals for a lynching.
Right.
but it's like he also experiences racism. That these
Mm-hmm.
things aren't negated.
Right.
These both can be held in the
I
same
mean,
space.
again, as we just talked about earlier, like,
Mm-hmm.
the same, a lot of times the same people of color that decide to like side with like oppressors, they also experience,
Yeah.
racism. That doesn't like negate the fact that they experience these things. It's just that they decide to align with these white oppressive systems
Mm-hmm.
and can want and decide to be part of that violence.
Yeah.
So that's like, there are two things can be true.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the trial itself. Um because it's crazy still. I hate that they decided to call it, like, I hate that they had Claudia call it
A
a
stoning.
stoning when we were talking about this like earlier this week or earlier last week, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How Louis already talks about how he was just glad he didn't get lynched while he was in
Mm-hmm.
Paris. And so that big circle moment to him actually,
Getting lynched in Paris.
yeah, would have been, like, that's
And
what it is.
yeah.
That's what it is. And so it would have been very appropriate to allow her to say it. They should
Yeah.
have let her say it.
And it, to me, like, it feels like that is what the line was at one point, because there's lines around it that make that feel like it is. Like when Louis like,
Mm-hmm.
that sucked the air out of the room real quick. The
Mm-hmm.
word
Yeah.
stoning doesn't
It
have as
doesn't
much
have that
weight,
effect.
especially with the fact that, like, we do see a lot of American expats in that audience.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
Mm.
I do feel that that was the line at one point, but someone higher up was like, we can't say that these characters were participating in a
Weak.
lynching. Weak.
Weak. Because
Weak.
that's what it was. We all know that's what it was.
Yeah.
We see how it played out
Mm-hmm.
from cutting their tendons, which is
Yeah.
something that actually happened, disorienting them every single time they
Yeah.
like try to like speak out at all, to the horrible stereotypes and
Yeah.
caricatures that they used for them during
Mm-hmm.
the trial. Like, we know
Yeah.
what that was.
The fact that they had it be that Louis was aggressively pursuing and this white person who textbook and making like the way like when Lestat's like, oh, his eyes were like roving all
That
over
was so
me.
disgusting.
It's disgusting.
That's textbook history. Okay,
Yeah.
this is literally how Black men and women were accused,
Mm-hmm.
and then the white folks accused to lynch
Yeah.
them. Like, literally, there's a whole caricature of like the Black brute who
Mm-hmm.
is like this very like sexually deviant, violent person who's
Mm-hmm.
out to, you know, assault white women. And I feel like that's definitely the caricature that they leaned into, that they
Yes.
all willingly leaned into to paint Louis as
Mm-hmm.
some kind of predator.
Yeah.
When Louis wasn't even going after that man like that.
No, and we see like Louis really thrown and really upset by seeing this,
And
like,
I can only imagine how that felt.
how betrayed he would feel to hear Lestat describe it like that.
Yeah.
Because, like, and willingly throw him under the bus like that in that particular way.
Right.
Where it's like, because also part of their, like, courtship, Louis really did feel like he was forming a connection with this person. They spent a long time like talking in the park,
right,
and going, that's when Lestat deigned to sit, in the shitty seats at the
like,
integrated,
really
shows.
Being like kind of vulnerable.
Yeah, him saying that he told Lestat things that he had only ever told his brother.
Right.
Like, he's like, I had never found myself able to confide in another man the way that I was able to confide in Lestat in those early days when we were getting to know each other. And then to see it flipped around and made it seem like he was some, like, fucking like sexual monster who was imposing and pushing and forcing and making this guy, you know, like squeezing himself in his space and like,
oh my god,
it's the betrayal of their whole relationship and everything that he like cherished about their relationship being flipped like this and put out for an audience for them to like you know, tear apart, especially because like Louis is a very private person, and also like putting all his business out there anyway. Like even the fact that he was in a relationship with this man, why is that being broadcast to this whole like audience of people? And I'm thinking about this now, about this moment and then Louis's desire to control a narrative. Because like that's what the interview really is. It's him trying to, I think the first interview in the 70s was him trying to control the narrative. He kind of did, like, he was like, Lestat was this fucking dumbass, like weak, like shitty fucking teacher. He wasn't shit. I hate that guy. Was him doing this exaggerated version of like everything he resented about Lestat. And then the second interview is him being like, I want to revisit this narrative and sort out what's real. And I want to have control over my voice. And I think it's why we see Louis in the teaser trailer being upset that the voice he wanted and the narrative he wanted was not respected by Daniel. And I think a lot of this has to do with this trauma of the trial of not having control over his narrative when it was given to an audience, and now it looks like he doesn't have control over his narrative again.
Fuck Daniel.
Yeah. In my house, it's fuck Daniel every day. I don't care about that guy.
Nah, we're gonna get into, when season 3 starts, we're gonna get into Daniel because there's some shit I want to talk about in regards to already what we've seen in the teaser. Because I already got essays already waiting.
But yeah, so like it's I do feel like it's that constant desire to try and control his narrative, control how he comes across, his overly like cool, elegant, placid, the way that he like Jacob said that he felt that Louis was trying to emulate James Baldwin, a black intellectual in Dubai, because the last time he was portrayed in front of an audience, he was, like you said, this like brutish, like aggressive, mindless, dumb, like sexual aggressor. And so it's like now he's trying to control it by being like, I don't feel emotions. I've never been out of control. I'm constantly in control of my urges, and I am very elegant and eloquent, and you know, all of that. And I think it's an overcorrection.
Now you can't try to twist anything.
I think that, and I think
honestly that's like very relevant to like how black folk have to like sometimes we feel like we have to move, which is why respectability politics, I don't subscribe to that, but like a lot of us feel like we have to like behave or move in the world a certain way. I mean, that's why, you know, part of the reason why like even Ava exists and why we have to like we code switch, because like we have to present ourselves a certain way to be able to move in this white society. Otherwise you're going to be perceived a certain way and opportunities dwindle when white folks decide to see you in whatever way they want to see us. We can barely say anything and we're already immediately deemed like an aggressor. So yeah, this is very relevant to like real world shit. This show is very relevant to real world shit.
And I'm just like, I think that's a really interesting motivation for Louis that we see come over and over again about his desire to control his narrative, because we saw how violently it was ripped away from him. And then I think continuing with like the tragedy that Claudia doesn't really get to control her own narrative outside of the diary. She only gets to control it posthumously, but even those are edited.
Exactly.
So, like, she doesn't have control over her narrative. And who says she wants people to read her diaries anyway?
Exactly. Yeah, Claudia never gets that choice.
No.
Never.
No. She's always violated. She's always, like, she never gets a say in how she presents. She never gets a say in how the world sees her. It's always going to be filtered through someone else. And that's the biggest tragedy. And I think it has a lot to do, like, if we're because, like, this is the culmination of our conversation about race, sexuality, and gender,
Right.
that Claudia, as a Black woman, has
Mm-hmm.
the least agency forever over how
Mm-hmm.
she is seen.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. And I'm gonna bring it back around to fandom one more time. I'm sorry. I always do, because there's always so much shit.
Yeah.
And because it does make me think about, like, I were talking about this in a way that, like, she's not allowed to be, like, seen as, like, a victim in this. And recently in the fandom, I have seen something that was real wild. We already
Have
talked.
we? I don't remember.
I think we already talked about this. No, we did. And how people are, after seeing the teaser,
Oh, yeah.
they are already so quick to be like, "Oh, Claudia must have, like,
lied about the train scene.
the train scene." Why are we so quick to assume that she lied about something like that?
Yeah.
What would that do for her to lie about that in her own diaries?
Yeah.
What would that do for her? That was supposed to be an outlet for her.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know that people were gonna go and, like, blast it around to the whole world.
Yeah.
So what reason? And it's so interesting that, like, again, because now we have the trial audience, and then we have the, like, real world audience are taking this, and they're so eager to try to act like this Black woman couldn't have been an actual victim.
Mm-hmm. Or that she's lying, or it wasn't that bad, or
Yeah.
something. And it's like, yeah, and I think it's this weird, like, instead of considering that maybe the reason why Lestat took issue with it is because he doesn't like being seen that way, that it had to be because Claudia's lying.
Right.
So of course it's like to make the white man look better.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, he's upset because it's a lie. No, he's upset because he's painting an image of himself. He has a brand now. He's a
Mm-hmm.
public figure.
Mm-hmm.
And to have him be like his, like I said, slave catcher cosplay, like, isn't a good look for him as a public figure.
Mm-hmm.
And so of course he's going to be upset about it. And I think on a different level, Lestat doesn't want to face what he did to her. He's in a sea of self-denial,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't fit in with the narrative he's crafted for himself, and so he doesn't want it in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has very little to do with reality, and I think it has very little to do with Claudia, like,
Mm-hmm.
herself as a person. I think it has a
Right.
lot to do with other, like, I think a lot of things in general have a lot to do with how other people see Claudia, or how other people want Claudia to fit in to the story that they've created, as opposed to what a wrench Claudia is to all of that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she complicates things. Her
Right.
presence is inherently like complicates things. And they'd rather just either pretend like it was smoother, or she was happier than she was in situations, or she's a liar, or whatever, rather than face the reality of what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, when we're talking also portrayals, because I was thinking about how they portray Louis in the trial, the illustrations of Claudia are very animalistic.
Exactly. They really lean into that.
Yeah.
Which is, it's weird.
Yeah.
Because, once again, there's history behind
Mm-hmm.
making Black folks seem like animals.
Yeah.
And so it's really disgusting that they decide to, like, characterize her this way, and once again remove as much humanity from her as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I also find super interesting about the trial is that despite, all the issues that Louis and Claudia have had, Claudia spends a lot of the trial defending Louis.
Yeah,
like,
she does.
When things come up, she's the one who's always, like, shouting back to the audience to, like, change the narrative on him, and, like, it's really sad that, like, she's the only person who's
so much. I put that in my earlier notes because I was gonna write something about this before, and I didn't get around to it. But, like, the way that she really she fights so hard
Mm-hmm.
for both of them.
Yeah.
And once again, I always try to tie back, because, like, these experiences are, like, how Black folks have had to move, and having to be so, like, we're forced to be, like, very, like, resilient. in the face of like everything. And they always want to say it like, oh, you know, a strong black woman or whatever. But why does she have to why does she have to do that?
It's like because she has no other option. It's like, yeah, like,
yeah,
it's like she's never been given a choice not to.
right.
It's like there's no, it's like out of pure necessity. And that's why a lot of times, like, to I guess speak a little bit more on gender a little bit, like, when people try and use a one size fits all for like what, like, quote unquote, like feminist representation would look like, a empowering representation of a white woman is not the empowering representation of a black woman. Because like a white woman having, like, being in that situation, very outspoken, very like not needing anybody, being very independent, is very empowering because of how race and gender intersect to make white women be forcibly dependent. But that same image isn't empowering for like black women, because that's always just been the reality of the situation, because no one's going to defend you.
Exactly. That has
so
always
you always
been the case.
it's like it's always has to be like independent. I'm taking care of myself. Like I have to do all of this, because that's just, no one else has my back. And we see that with Claudia of like no one else has her back, so she has to have her back, but then she also has to have everyone else's back.
Exactly.
And yeah,
black women seem to have to do that all this fucking time.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not right. It's not fair. It's not fair here to Claudia, and
yeah.
so it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
It's so upsetting. And I don't think enough people really consider these intersections of that she really exists within.
Yeah. And the other thing I really love about Claudia in the trial is how she, like, people disregard so much of what she says in that trial, but she doesn't let any of it lie. Like, all of this stuff that comes up that could be seen as like potentially redemptive, she immediately points at the hypocrisy in it, because she doesn't even give it a second to breathe. And I find it interesting how often people disregard what she's saying in order to just do what it is that she's warning against.
Right.
Because like when Lestat does have his moment where he does apologize for the domestic violence that he enacted on Louis and Claudia to an extent. He never apologized to Claudia, but he only apologizes to Louis about what he did. That she immediately leans over and she goes, he's still hurting you. He's hurting you right now.
Right.
And then when he's like, and she's like, also says, if he's sorry, it's way too late.
Right.
And she's just right there saying, like, pointing out the obvious, which is like, and I think this is something that's also complicated that people don't want to acknowledge when it comes to stories about abuse, is that I think Lestat's genuine, but it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because like intent and impact are two different things. And so like his intention is, this, but the impact of it is what matters. Like intention to me matters very little, because if you don't mean to do something, but you're doing that thing anyway, I think the action matters more.
Right.
And so, like, while Lestat may genuinely be regretful that that happened, he's not doing anything to fix the situation. And in fact, he's enacting more harm on Louis and asking for forgiveness for a previous incident while in the middle of a new incident.
Yeah, this could have been a conversation in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Like,
this could have been an email. No.
Yeah. Like, we could have chatted about this in one of the cafes across the street.
Yeah, you've been here for like a month and some change, and you didn't reach out to me and warn me. Because that's another thing Lestat could have done. He could have contacted somebody. He could have found them. If they've established that they can feel where each other are. If he's like, they're gonna kill you.
Yeah.
You've gotta go.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that. And I know he can't telepathically communicate with Louis or Claudia, but he can telepathically communicate with Madeline. And he didn't. Anyway. But yeah, so like I love that as like a narrative choice of like Claudia always has to come in and bring reality into the room.
Mm-hmm.
And she does it, and then the other thing she does in that scene is where, same thing where Lestat's like boohooing about this thing, and she straight up to me like says the most important part of that, which is another thing that people disregard.
Mm-hmm.
Both the audience in the theater and the audience at home, when she's like, okay, you're sorry. Can I say I'm sorry? What if I start crying and saying I'm sorry I did this to you? Do I get forgiveness, or is that just for you?
Exactly.
And the answer from, I guess, both the audience in the theater and the audience at large is, yeah, that is the case.
Yeah.
Because Claudia doesn't get the same like compassion or clemency that Lestat gets.
Right.
Because if she did, then everybody like, oh, it's manipulative, or
Right.
it's not genuine. But Lestat gets to do it, and they're like, oh, what a heartfelt moment.
Right.
Right. And she's there to point out the hypocrisy over and over again, and it's like, like Cassandra at the gates, where she's saying this thing and she's just disregarded, and then disaster happens constantly over and over again. And it's really upsetting that like this is not a subtle show. The show really like holds up signs that say what is happening,
and it still goes over
and
a
it
lot of
still goes over people's heads. They literally have the antagonists do the whole "they're just monsters" thing, and I see people still say that, like it's different because they're monsters,
which is like, why are we still saying that to
this day?
Like, I thought we were done saying that in season 1.
I remember staring in shock when that happened because of how I had seen that same opinion happen since 2022 over and over again, and then he straight up said almost verbatim many a tweet and Tumblr post I've seen. I was in the trenches.
I had seen it many a times as well. It was I was like, oh, we're going there.
Yeah.
But nothing has changed, honestly.
No.
Sadly.
But yeah, so I just think that's really like Claudia having these moments where like she just points it out. She illuminates the farce.
Mm-hmm.
Many times she points out what's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then to like tie it back to what we were talking about with Santiago, there is a parallel in the trial itself when Lestat is talking about his relationship with Louis and like that feeling of entitlement to,
that was the word
we were looking for. That's the word. But that feeling of entitlement when he's talking about like that period when Claudia was gone and they felt like Louis' deep depression, and he said the first thing he names is he's like, when your partner won't share their body with you, and that feeling of entitlement to Louis sexually,
right? And
it's like, you can be upset that your partner, like that part of your relationship has like
that piece of intimacy
is gone,
not happening right now.
But like, to say it the way that he said it, which is like in some way he feels that he deserves access to Louis' body because they're in a romantic relationship, that what's it called, like we said, like entitlement to
black bodies.
Black bodies and access to it, and if he doesn't get it, then he gets to be unfaithful.
Right.
Even
though he was doing that already.
He was already doing that, and I think that's really interesting that he introduced it there instead of the first time Louis was too sick to have a sex drive when he was eating animals, and Lestat interpreted that as him rejecting him in his relationship, so he decided to cheat on Louis with a white woman.
Right.
It's very pointed, a very pointed choice. I think it's such a pointed choice because for people who don't know, in the book Interview with the Vampire, there is a character named Antoine who is the Antoinette analog, who in the book looks like Louis. They have very similar physical characteristics. He's also a violinist. Antoine is very much like supposed to be like a kind of like proxy, this doppelganger of Louis. that Lestat starts spending time with because Louis doesn't want to spend time with him, and then also keeps threatening to kill Antoine, being like, maybe I'll kill him tonight. And so it's like this threat of violence to Louis by threatening violence to someone who looks like Louis.
Right.
And that happens a lot, over and over again. And in the show, I think it's such a pointed decision that Antoinette is basically the opposite of Louis.
Right.
Instead of being a black man.
Because he's like, well, I can just go be with a white woman.
Yeah. And so it's like a different type of like threat. Where it's just like, being with you is harder than if I was with her. Because like they can go out to spaces that he can't go out with Louis to, and we see them making out in public when he can't do that with Louis. For multiple reasons. Even if Louis were a woman, there would still be a little bit of like so things are more difficult. So he's kind of being like, I'm choosing this difficult setup when I don't have to. And it's his way of rejecting Louis because he feels like Louis rejected him, both because he doesn't want to kill people and also because he's not having sex with him at the moment because of his eating disorder and he's too tired. And it's also a way to like rage bait Louis. I think he wants Louis to kill Antoinette.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that definitely is.
But Louis won't because Louis is pettier. He's like, I know you want me to do it, so I'm not going to do it because it's going to, one, break the thing where I don't want to kill people.
Exactly.
And two, it's because you want me to do it. So I'm not going to do that.
Good for him.
Yeah. And so he does it. And the other thing is, like, I think Lestat also wants Louis to ask him to kill Antoinette, but Louis won't do that either because he's not going to beg.
Right.
For him to be the only person in Lestat's life. Lestat's either going to make that choice or he won't. And we see over and over Louis being like, I'm not going to beg someone for something. I mean, other than Claudia. He begged for Claudia.
But that's his daughter.
That's his daughter. But yeah, so I think that's once. But yeah, so we see that, but then like, yeah, in that scene when like Lestat is talking about it and the time he introduces Antoinette into the narrative, it's because he doesn't get that access to Louis's body. And so it plays back to that where it's like also this Louis occupying whatever role is convenient for the story. He's either like this hyper masculine, aggressive, sexual predator, or he's the frigid wife.
Exactly.
And it
happens. Yeah, we get both.
Yeah.
You get both extremes within the trial.
Yeah. It's also like that thing where we were talking in the Louis episode where it's like, or I think in general that like gender is tricky when you're a person of color. You're whatever.
Yes.
Because also like, if we think about the first interaction between Louis and Lestat where he talks about how Lestat emasculated him in order to assert his whiteness and his white maleness.
Right.
It's the paradox where like Louis is simultaneously degendered and also hyper masculinized.
Right.
We see it. We see it in the fandom.
We see it in a lot, but you know.
Yeah. So I think that's really interesting. Like as an element that they bring into the trial and like how it operates within like this larger narrative that's being told here. Now that we've kind of talked about the trial
itself,
let's talk about the end of the trial, which is the sentencing and the judgment.
Yes. We're gonna talk about one other person.
So who's been there this whole time
and we haven't
had
a chance to talk about yet.
Yeah, because like I think and it is of course Madeline,
right?
Who is there?
Who is there?
Who is there? But like the treatment that Madeline gets as opposed to Louis and Claudia, I think is so like so much has to do with the fact that she's a white woman.
Exactly.
And the way that they make it so she's silent basically during the whole trial. She has no idea what's happening.
Right.
We get a couple times that she has no clue where she is.
Right.
Kind of because like she's being granted more grace, and honestly if she was allowed to speak, she would not be given that grace anymore. Because, like, if there's one thing Madeline's gonna do, she's gonna say some shit.
She's gonna say something.
She's gonna say something.
She got something to say.
Yeah. She's got something to say. But yeah. But the fact that they, like, mute her like that and keep her in this state so that they can offer her the choice to join the coven.
Exactly. They offer her something that they don't offer to Louis and Claudia. They don't offer this specifically. They're not offering this to Claudia at all. And this is a chance to, as you said, join the coven, and basically, like, she doesn't have to receive any kind of sentencing at all. They, you know, she's like, they paint her as like innocent. This is not your fault. Like, you gotta know what's going on and whatever, trying to paint it very clean for her, in order to give her a chance to walk free from this. And
she rejects it.
She rejects it.
She chooses not to. She could have gone with it, but she doesn't want to be with these people. So she's like, honestly, I'd rather die. And I will. Goodbye. Like, she's like, she's been on trials before. she's had all her business put out for everybody to see before, and she's just like, I'm going to, I think in this moment, because, like, she does a lot of she has shown in her past that she's done a lot of underhanded stuff to save her own skin. And in this moment, she chooses not to. She chooses to be very straight up and, like, go down with someone that she cares about and choose Claudia in that moment. And even though it's not the self-preserving gesture. And also, like, the way we see them physically treating Louis and Claudia pre-trial, where
we didn't even talk about that.
They're beating Louis up. They're kicking him in the back. They throw Claudia in the rat box, and Madeline is not included in any of that.
Exactly.
We see her a little bruised up, but she's not nearly in as bad a state as the other two.
Exactly.
So, like, they really don't go all out with her as they do the other two. And it's purely because she's a white woman.
Right.
And so she's granted that grace, and she's granted that, like, you know.
Exactly. Again, given a choice that, like, Claudia's not ever given. Claudia has been denied any kind of autonomy over her, not just her body, but, like, any kind of choice at all since the moment she was created by Louis and Lestat. And even beyond that, as we kind of get a little bit into what her life looked like before. And so, you know, she's tried wholeheartedly to kind of retain any little bit of this, but, like, she's denied any kind of choices. And it's purely because, you know, she's a Black woman. So she's been friendlies all this time, but now, like, when it gets to trial, she's being treated like an adult, but, like, even beyond that, because like, she's not being treated equally as all the other adults in this room. Like, she's not getting the same kind of grace that Lestat is receiving. She's not getting the same kind of choices that Madeline is offered. There's only one choice for her, and that's the choice that the coven has decided to make.
Obviously they're not operating under, like, a fair legal system.
Right.
It's a vibes-based system.
Right.
But because they're holding these laws, so, like, the only punishment for a law is death.
Right.
So technically, Claudia is within her rights to kill Lestat because he broke the second law. He made a child into a vampire. So her killing him would technically be the punishment for that crime. However, that's not treated this way. And like, not to hand anything to Lestat, but Lestat does say, like, I'm technically guilty of this crime, so you should kill me as well. And they're all like, sit down.
They're like, stop playing.
Yeah. They're like, get the fuck out of here. Go back to your spot. But then he hits his spot again, and that's the thing that always gets me. So, like, he does these big moments, and then he says his next line, you know? So it's just, like, so disingenuous. But anyway.
It's like Claudia said, it's like, so what? Basically, like...
Yeah.
Okay, well you're still here. You're still doing this, but
Yeah,
yeah.
whatever.
Anyways.
So it's like technically Claudia's within her rights, but it's a double standard, and also she never killed Lestat anyway. So what's the crime? Attempted murder? This isn't
Mhm.
a real court of law.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't matter attempted murder because then even they talk about between like Louis and Lestat, oh that's nothing really, even though it
Mhm.
was attempted murder.
Yeah.
Um, like that's not a big deal, but it's a big deal when Claudia does it to actually save her own life. And she
Right.
says, like, he was trying to kill us.
Right.
So it's like this act of self defense is painted as malicious and like purely like I mean it was a premeditated murder, but like cold and calculated and like it came out of the blue for no good
Right.
reason. It's purely because of her own bloodlust and not because of she was trying to escape her abuser who she tried to escape 2 times before and ended up finding herself back there for various reasons. Whether
Right.
one because she wasn't able to
She
get
didn't
out.
have the same kind of she didn't have
Yeah, she didn't have the
the
resources, the
mobility
mobility.
to
Yeah.
move that way
And
as
then when she tries to leave again, being like, fuck it. She's dragged back.
right.
Um so yeah, it's clearly a double standard. But like
Because whiteness is often like afforded a different type
mm-hmm.
of like a certain amount of like forgiveness, even down to like when you're talking about Madeline, like Santiago was willing to like lay on stage for her and be like, you know, she was made
Mm-hmm.
unaware of everything.
Yeah.
But then like
Because he could have
Claudia,
just forced her to not be able to talk, but he
yeah,
made it so she didn't see what was happening either.
exactly. Giving her like this out as like this,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, giving her an out as like a white woman, but again, like it's not this is not afforded to everyone.
Yeah. And then, of course, with the judgment, once again talking about what's not afforded to Claudia, Louis does get saved. Claudia does not.
Right.
We can make an argument that they could only save one. But
But then again, it's like where's like the choice then? 'Cause what like
yeah.
there is an obvious choice, and what was that rooted in? Because like
Yeah.
they like you chose the man that you like desire, the man that you love over your daughter. Still,
Yeah.
you only could choose one, and who did you choose?
Yeah.
What was the choice there?
Mm-hmm. And it's like, let's be so real. Lestat was never going to save Claudia in that
No,
situation. He was never going to
no,
do it.
he was ready to kill her in season 1.
Yeah. He was never going to do that. And so it's like, I think that's another element of like rage for Claudia is
Mm-hmm.
that Louis gets to be saved. I mean, she doesn't know where he's going.
Right.
I don't. It's clearly the Coven wasn't planning
The
on
Coven
saving her.
wasn't planning on it. Yeah,
Yeah,
they were
they're like
like,
get in the rocks.
yeah, you're gonna starve to death instead.
Yeah. But you know, I can't imagine the betrayal for Claudia in that moment. No, like there was an out and it wasn't given to her.
Yeah.
Because that happens after her sentencing.
Yeah.
And also, I have a bone to pick. Oh, just a little bit that we've had like off the record, which is technically.
Oh, we about to get into it.
Technically, Armand still saved Louis. Because when Lestat said the banishment thing, Louis gets thrown into the tomb, the little coffin full of rocks and put up into the wall. And Lestat doesn't come back to get him out of that wall. He goes to, I don't know, brood in Magnus's tower for whatever, like however long he was there.
Emo.
Yeah, to go be emo and whatever. He doesn't save Louis because Louis is gonna die anywhere, but just in a different spot, in a much like a more drawn out.
I know.
Armand still saves Louis.
Yeah.
Like, it's not.
They like.
They tag teamed it.
They tag team it. So like no, sure. And that is like a thing that's so annoying to me because I feel like people have decided that because Lestat was like quote unquote saved Louis, somehow his participation in this is less. But I'm like, they both equally participated, and they both kind of saved quote Louis. So like,
yeah,
these, I think the thing that bothers me is that both of these men are not shit.
yeah.
Both of these men have decided to leverage anti-blackness, anti-black violence against Louis and Claudia. Both of them participated in the trial.
Yeah.
In different ways, they both participated. And then in saving Louis, both of them did their weak little...
I'm doing my part.
Yeah, I guess. So, like, there's really no... there's no, like... If you're putting them on, like, a scale or something...
Yeah.
There's not, like, one's coming up higher than the other.
Yeah.
They're both on an equal scale.
Yeah, they both suck and they both did that.
Yeah, they both did that shit. And then they both, at the end, were like, but Louis, at the end, after all the fucking horrors, at the end, they both like, LaSalle was like, well, what about banishment? And they were like, okay. And then they threw him in the rocks. And Lestat went to go brood. And then
LaSalle was like, my job here is done.
My job this year is done.
Tuxedo mask.
And Armand's like, wait, I can't let him starve in there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he's been starving for like days and days already, but let me go ahead and get him now.
Yeah.
Like, both of them, of these guys, when I see them, we're boxing. And it's going to be kind of equal boxing. Kind of.
Oh, I was like equal for you and them, like in terms of when you said equal boxes, like we're on equal footing, me and them.
Oh, no. I mean, you know, they probably really beat my ass, but we're going to figure out a way. I'm going to figure out a way. Yeah. For Claudia's honor, I'm boxing them real good. I'm going to get so good, y'all. Let me start training right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
That's all. Because, like, I feel like, because this is also relevant to the trial, right? We're talking about race and we're talking about these things. And I feel like there's an effort to, like, paint Armand as the only big bad in all these situations, which I feel like is weird, trying to make like the brown man the only big bad when all of these people have been players in this. Santiago has been a player in this. The Coven, which includes multiple people, the audience who, you know, did the sentence. Oh, sorry. Who did the sentencing, who jeered and like cheered. Lestat, who came in, who gave him all this extra information, by the way. And, you know, willingly participated in like demonizing his family. And then you have Armand, who directed the play, and both Lestat and Armand could have done something beforehand. Neither one of them did anything. All these people are all fucking complicit in the participation of this trial. Every single one of them. There's not one who was more guilty than the other. Yeah. And that's what I just want to be really clear about, because I don't know, I feel like once again, as this trial does, there are people who want to somehow make Lestat more innocent than he is, but he's not. All of them are. All of them are going to hell, and I'm boxing them there. Yeah.
But I'm just like, if you're gonna act like Lestat doing that weak ass banishment thing absolves him of everything he did before that literal moment, then
where I'm like,
I'm gonna say that Armand gets a couple points for pulling Louis out of the rocks and actually letting him live.
Yeah. Better than none of them are getting points.
No, they're not really.
No stars. We're not putting stars on the wall for them. No, you did great. You
tried. Not even.
They're not even getting you tried. They're getting a angry face.
See me
sticker.
after class.
Yeah, see me after. Yeah, I'm sliding that over.
Yeah, face down.
Face down.
Yeah.
See me after class. So that's what I just want to be really clear about, because we are little thing is all about really getting into like the intersections of all of these things of race and talking about race and talking about it within the show, but also talking about how it influences all of us watching as well. Because this shit is not in a vacuum.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I'm gonna probably talk about this a little bit more another time, but like everything that we engage with and how we engage with is influenced by these social structures. I can't fucking speak. And so I think that some of the viewpoints and some of the like opinions, some of the who we let off, and who we don't, is influenced by these outside social structures.
Yeah.
But I will talk about that another time, actually.
Yeah.
We had to get this out this week. So yeah, but there will be a video coming up, because it's something I do want to talk about at large, and how the fandom moves, and even outside of this fandom in general. But yeah, so I think it's relevant because this trial is very much
it reflects real life, and even though it's like a literal theatrical I think we're in fucking Hamlet, play within a play, like metatextual like layers here, because
really
it's a TV show portraying a play, portraying a lynching that's a real lynching, that's pretending it's a fake lynching, that is being shown for an audience, that's then on a TV show that we're watching at home. That show then is for their audience at home. So it's all of these layers of performance in order to like simultaneously obfuscate but also heighten and laser focus the larger societal things at play. It's like the purpose of the play in the show is to obfuscate what's happening, but the purpose of showing that play that's obfuscating what's happening just lays bare to the audience on for the TV show, like the real human audience that is us, like what is happening and what they're speaking to.
Right.
So I love shit like that, and I love that we have, even like before they show the execution, Santiago tells them this is all fake before he shows the realest thing that happens on that stage. And but for us at home, it is fake. For them in the audience, it's real.
Right.
So anyway,
honestly, I think
that's it.
I think that's it.
Wow. We started. Can you believe that we thought we were going to be able to do all of this in one episode?
I know.
Because the original plan was to talk about Louis, Claudia, Armand, and the trial in one episode.
Right.
That was never going to happen.
I'm glad we didn't do that, because I feel like all of these things really deserve to be talked about thoroughly. And some of y'all are skipping the Louis episode, by the way. You should fucking listen to it.
Yeah.
Just saying.
We worked really hard on it.
We had to record it a couple of times.
We had to record it a couple of times because the sound got fucked up twice.
I do still think that if we recorded it one more time, it'd be even better now that we've like had practice. But it's fine. I love Louis. Louis my whole... That's my wife right there. I love Louis more than anything. I got so many Louis on my wall right now. Yeah. I got so many Claudias also on my wall now. I'm like, hell, like, well, actually, I only have 2. I need more. Someone make me some good Claudia art. So I can and like make it a print. I need prints of Claudia art, so I can put more of her on my wall, because there's not enough. Anyways, sorry, I'm getting distracted. But yeah, so we are really glad that y'all have tuned in with us. We're glad that you have like listened through all 5 of these episodes. Yeah. And we hope that you've, gotten something out of it. And I also hope, like, I don't know. I know that a lot of people... I hope that you guys are really taking like some of this to heart and like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe changing like your worldview a little bit and realizing that like especially with a show like this, like you have to engage with it on a level that's like beyond just like
Yeah.
fun fandom times, because this is a show that's like really engaging with some serious
Mm-hmm.
topics and engaging with like how these different themes interact with like race,
Yeah.
and like even like other people of color. I also want you to like examine how you interact with these things as well, because I feel like sometimes we still have our own like spots that we kind of overlook because of there's a lot of internalized things and like ingrained things that we still have to like unlearn. And again, I'm going to talk about more of this another time. But yeah, I just hope that like people are taking something out of this and are also enjoying it though.
Mm-hmm.
I know like we talk about some heavy things, but I hope it's still been like fun.
Yeah.
And we are going to talk about something else after this.
For sure. We keep saying maybe Sinners, but I think probably Sinners.
We're definitely gonna talk about Sinners. It's something I really been wanting to chat about. Um, but yeah, we will keep y'all tuned in
Yeah.
for what's coming up in next following episodes. Yeah, we appreciate you listening, and subscribe or do all those things depending on which platform you listen to this on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let us,
Follow us on Twitch so you can watch us stream.
follow us on Twitch, and you can talk to us. You can talk to us about what we talked about in these podcasts.
Yeah, shout out to the person who stayed for our entire stream last
my
time,
God.
despite the fact that it took me over an hour to kill one boss in Silent Hill 2.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Enjoying it. Yeah, maybe, yeah, you can, tell us your thoughts about what we've been talking about. Because I am interested. I'm always interested in having conversations about things.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's all. So this is actually, the conclusion of our Interview with the Vampire series that we've been doing.
We will talk about.
We're gonna talk about more, but like this specific series that we've been doing.
We're gonna take a break. We had to take a break from Interview with the Vampire for a minute, because while we started this whole thing because of Interview with the Vampire, we do want to talk about other things as well. We don't want to just be the Interview with the Vampire show.
There's also other vampires we want to talk about. Like we literally said Sinners, but like other stuff. We've been thinking about what we're gonna do next and what other vampire things.
I'm just gonna say, I think that we want to do like a little series of talking about some of our like favorite vampire media and going in depth, because I really want to talk about Ganja and Hess.
Yeah.
So good. So I think that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
So tune into that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all we have.
That's all, folks.
Jeez. So we'll see you next.
Guys, not allowed to do one-liners.
No. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.